In today's video, we are talking about the results of the ARANOTE trial. This is a phase 3 trial that's talking about Nubeqa, which is a second-generation hormone therapy, and it got approved to be used with first-generation hormone therapies. This is exciting because now we're going to start to see insurance coverage for a second generation being used earlier, and we're going to talk about the effectiveness, the results of the trial, and the opinion of Dr. Mark Scholes, who's a medical oncologist who has focused in prostate cancer for over 30 years. So in today's video, we're talking about Nubeqa, which is a second-generation hormone therapy, and recently here in June of 2025, there was a announcement from Bayer that they did this big ARANOTE trial, and so it was a phase 3 trial, and it was against a placebo. So they took these patients who were on like a first-generation like Lupron, and they separated them in two groups. About 2/3 of them were on Lupron plus Nubeqa, and then the other was on Lupron with a placebo, and they saw a 46% lack of progression and death in the patients who took the second generation Nubeqa hormone therapy with the first generation. So this is really exciting. You have been talking about early use of second generation hormone therapy for quite some time. There's a lot of studies and there's a lot of findings, and now it's going to come to, how do patients get access and insurance and all these issues. But can you kind of speak to what Nubeqa is and why there would be such an increase in effectiveness?
So Nubeqa and its competitors, Xtandi, Zytiga, and Erleada, are remarkable game-changing medicines that effectively address a type of prostate cancer, the more dangerous types of prostate cancer. What I mean by the more dangerous ones are, historically, most prostate cancers just roll over and die when you take testosterone away. But there are subgroups of prostate cancer cells that can make their own testosterone. And these types of cancer cells can grow even when a man's testicles aren't making any testosterone and when testosterone levels are zero in the bloodstream. When your best treatment, your best historical treatment, such as Lupron, isn't working, that defines a dangerous subset of prostate cancer. These medicines, such as Nubeqa, which block the testosterone activity inside the cancer cell, are addressing the most dangerous variants of prostate cancer, and they address it very effectively. That's why they're game changers.
So it leads us to a lot of questions. We hear first generation versus second generation. Is there a difference in the side effects that patients will experience if they're taking more intense hormone therapy earlier on?
Well, I think that's one of the attractive things about Nubeqa compared to its three competitors. Its three competitors are Zytiga, Erleada, and Xtandi, as I mentioned before. In my opinion, Nubeqa has the most favorable side effect profile compared to the other three. The good news is that all four of them are generally well tolerated in the context of someone who's already taking Lupron. If their testosterone level is already low, adding these second-generation medicines often doesn't add much of any side effects. There are certain little wrinkles with each medicine that you have to watch out for, but for the most part, the lion's share of the side effects have to do with the blocking of testosterone, not with the medicine itself creating specific side effects. But if you look at the profile of those four different medicines, Nubeqa has lower side effects than the other three. And therefore, it's an attractive first choice if you can get coverage for these medicines, which are typically quite expensive. The fact that this trial comes out and validates the effectiveness of Nubeqa in this particular setting, which is men who are presenting for the first time to the doctor who already have cancer that's spread. And this is an unfortunate situation that occurs when men aren't checking PSA, and it happens more frequently than people realize. PSA checking on an annual basis sometimes just doesn't happen, and then when the prostate cancer has been discovered, it's been there for a long time because it tends to be a silent process, and it shows up in an advanced metastatic stage. For that group of people, the group of people that this study looked at and showed remarkable effectiveness by adding Nubeqa to Lupron rather than just doing Lupron alone, which was a traditional approach.
Before I get to my next question, I just wanted to remind you that this September we have an in-person prostate cancer patients and caregivers conference. It's a great way to get your questions answered by world-renowned experts in person. You can find out more at pcri.org. Now don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel because it helps support the work we do here in getting these videos out to prostate cancer patients all over the world. And if you would like to support us financially, you can do so at pcri.org/donate. Now back to my conversation with Dr. Scholes. So, we talk about Lupron a lot because it's kind of the mainstream, but what about adding Nubeqa to things like Orgovyx? Because Orgovyx is kind of exciting because you regain your testosterone back a lot faster, but if you're adding a second generation hormone therapy right away, that would not be the case, correct?
Actually, the recovery periods, which I think is the one defining issue between Lupron, Firmagon, and the other injectable testosterone-lowering drugs and Orgovyx, isn't changed. Nubeqa also has been, as have the other second generation agents, been used as single agents, and they also have fairly quick recovery of testosterone when you discontinue therapy. So it's only the injectables Trelstar, Eligard, Zoladex, Lupron, Firmagon that tend to have lingering low testosterone levels even after you stop the treatment.
And is there anything specific with Nubeqa? We always talk about those there's sometimes a couple caveats, like with Erlita, there was a rash that we had. Is there anything specific with Nubeqa that patients need to pay attention to, like blood panels, any sort of white blood cell count, anything like that?
No, I think it's a very well-tolerated medication. All of these medicines, the second-generation medicines, have potential interactions with other pills. And that's what has to be scrutinized. Whenever a person starts on Nubeqa or any of these other medicines, ensure that there's not going to be some cross-reactivity. Taking blood pressure, cholesterol medicines, these sorts of things. Blood levels might be altered by taking Nubeqa and these other second-generation agents. Very routine for pharmacies to look at these cross-reactivities. Most people won't even be aware that these things are being scrutinized, but that is something that has to be paid attention to.
Now, as far as dosage goes, the Lupron and these different types of injectables, they have different, amounts of time. You can go in for a 1-month shot, 3-month shot. Now, with the trial, it showed that they were taking 600 milligrams twice daily orally through Nubeqa. So is there any difference in combinations? Are those the typical doses that we would see patients take?
Right. So it's just a standard dose. It's not based on your body type, how big or small you are. Due to the fact that this is a very well-tolerated medicine, and makes the administration process quite simple, actually.
Is there any difference in the effectiveness of taking a second generation? If you have a low volume disease versus high volume disease, if somebody has low volume disease, should you think maybe don't take it, or is it an automatic yes? It'd just be wise to do so.
I think the main barrier is cost, and this is why for many patients this particular trial will be such a blessing, because now the insurance companies, which are always trying to find ways to not pay for expensive medicines to save money, that's what insurance companies do, they won't have any arguments against using Nubeqa in this particular setting, because now they've shown that there's an improvement in survival, and there's really no argument against that. Utilization of Nubeqa in combination with first-generation medicines or with Orgovyx, to me, would be routine if the financial barriers were gone. Since it's really not adding any side effects whatsoever, it's simply adding anti-cancer horsepower, anti-cancer effectiveness. And this is something that's realized on a broader sense in the medical world, is that medicine may become FDA approved for a narrow indication, but the doctors can easily see that the benefits of that medicine aren't limited just to that narrow little spectrum because they were able to demonstrate it there. You're fighting the same condition, the same cancer, in a variety of different settings, and where people can get access to Nubeqa and these other second-generation agents, they're almost always going to get better long-term outcomes without much of any additional side effects. So it's really the cost that represents a barrier. I can't think of too many situations, if any, where if someone has decided that it's to their benefit to be on Lupron or Orgovyx, that they wouldn't want to add a second generation that has essentially no side effects. The exception would be where we'll temper the intensity of hormone treatment in elderly men. Let's say they're 85 or 90 and they need something to kind of keep their disease in check for 5 or 10 years, where we'll use something like bicalutamide or Casodex, which doesn't block all the testosterone, therefore it has less testosterone-lowering side effects. If you recall, I mentioned earlier that the main side effects of Nubeqa and Lupron and Orgovyx, all these things, is not from the medicines themselves causing a problem. The main side effect is from men not having their testosterone. So the more intensively that the testosterone is removed, then the greater the potential side effects. Once you're already on Lupron, you've pretty much maxed out the intensity of low testosterone side effects, because Lupron has removed all the testosterone from the bloodstream. Nubeqa merely removes the testosterone inside the cancer cells. So there shouldn't be much of any additional side effects to adding Nubeqa on top of Lupron or Orgovyx.
The thing about Nubeqa is we've seen it be approved for patients who can take it in combination with chemotherapy, and now we're talking about patients where they weren't getting PSA testing, maybe their doctor never had them doing it every year, and now they're walking into the doctor's office, not only with prostate cancer, but prostate cancer that has jumped to the bones. And we've even seen this in recent cases with celebrities and President Biden, things like that. It's a very intense situation because it's not localized anymore, and it could have been caught earlier, and that's a really hard thing for the patient. So now we're looking at Nubeqa being approved for this setting, which is exciting. How do we see this play out? Is this the common scenario that we're going to see for men where Nubeqa being, done early? Is this like a huge win for us as a medical oncologist? Is that how you see it?
Yes, in the medical community, it's been obvious that adding these second-generation medicines to people who are beginning Lupron is going to pay off. And it has been demonstrated already with other types of second-generation medicines like Zytiga and Xtandi and whatnot. The fact that it opens up the coverage for payment is really the issue, because these medicines are quite expensive, and most people would not be able to consider buying them without insurance coverage. Insurance companies will concede that it is justified to administer these, and they will assume payment for them in people who fit this particular profile now.
This type of announcement, when it comes to a big clinical trial showing this type of effect where you can add a second-generation hormone therapy to a first-generation hormone therapy, is very exciting. As Dr. Scholl's mentioned, it's exciting because we're going to be able to get coverage for a second-generation hormone therapy to be used earlier on. And there is a lot of information and data in previous videos that I'm going to go ahead and post in the comments section where it shows the effects of early use of second-generation hormone therapy, and Dr. Scholl's kind of goes through that. Now, as we talk about hormone therapy, I want to just make sure that I highlight the side effects of hormone therapy vary from person to person, but the side effects are intense in a lot of men. And it's important to remember that you do want to think about the side effects that you're experiencing, write them down, and be vocal with your medical team about the side effects that you are experiencing and ask them if there are options. Research what those options are about, hot flashes, estrogen patches, things like that. Ask for a workout, you want to weight lift, you want to ask for a workout routine. You want to bring this up to your medical team because quality of life matters so much. And oftentimes, especially in older patients, I see men get on hormone therapy and they're not able to stay on it because they just don't like the side effects. You can ask your doctor about switching a different type of medication. Some men have gone from Lupron to Orgovyx, and so there's just options. But one of the things in prostate cancer that we see is that men just don't speak up. So I would encourage you, speak up, be vocal about what you're experiencing. We do understand that these side effects are quite a lot, and we want to help you get through this process because the anti-cancer effect of these hormone therapies is so incredible, and we do want you to experience that benefit. But staying on the medication can sometimes be a little difficult. So again, be vocal, do your research, and ask questions in the comment section below this video. There's a lot of information that we'll be able to provide and resources that we'll talk about in that comment section. Now, if you need help with your particular case, you can contact our helpline at pcri.org/helpline. These are prostate cancer patients who have been through prostate cancer diagnosis, including hormone therapy, and had that treatment, and they are a wealth of information. It is 100% free for you, and you can go ahead and see that on our website, and I'll link that in the comment section below. Now, please remember, you're not alone, and I hope you have